Good evening. Today let us discuss about the 3rd June 2015 newspaper. So, the major news over here is RBI has announced its monetary policy. So, as expected, the monetary policy, the repo rate was decreased by 25 basis points. But it is not in line with the expectations of the industry or the finance ministry. So what the industry was telling is this, or what the finance ministry was talking is this. It is the time we have to boost the investments as the financial or macroeconomic fundamentals are very strong in India. So the private investments have to be increased and public investments automatically pulls up the private investments. And sorry. So improving the demand is the key to the success. In this context, recently China also eased its monetary policy. It means the currency of China became much competitive and its exports are going to become much cheaper. In this context, if India do not go for monetary easing, automatically it will lead to loss of competitiveness in the internal market and it may lead to fall in exports further. But however, what Raghuram Rajan says is the fears of inflation are still, high on the Indian economy. What are the reasons? The first thing is current account deficit. The benefits which we got are going to come down because of the rise in oil prices. And second thing is the portfolio investments and direct investments, they are still strong. But however, majorly they contribute of the portfolio investments. The third thing is unpredictable monsoons. Fourth is lack of proper supply chain infrastructure in the country with regard to agricultural products. And finally, we don't have buffer stocks related to oil seeds and pulses. All these things can increase something called as food inflation. And on the other side, the trends which talk about is the exports of India did not boom as we expected. And the growth also did not occur as we expected. So in this context, so the challenge is to find balance the needs of the growth and also the needs of inflation control or inflation targeting. So obviously the first job of the central bank is to control the inflation, which is called inflation targeting. So obviously Mr. Rajan is also very conservative about this. So in this context, so what it was criticized is the RBI is not reacting to the changing circumstances. So what Raghuram Rajan clearly said is we have to improve the demand in the local economy and we have to use the underutilized capacities in our existing economy. So rather than depending upon the export markets. The fiscal deficit, low inflation, current account deficit, low levels of current account deficit, high forex reserves, and high flow of investments. These may provide for the positive environment, but the stability in that particular environment is one thing which is key to assessment. So added to that the fears of El Nino, which Australian Weather Department already declared as being set in. So it also going to boost the prices of the food grains as unpredictable monsoons are about to come up. And the second thing is the India's with regard to rule of law index. What is this rule of law index is? So this is very much a useful thing with regard to your good governance chapter. With regard to judiciary, if you want to talk something related to judiciary and performance of judiciary, you can use that. I always gave you how to make an answer. In the third paragraph, you have to bring in an intellectual support to this answer. So in bringing in this intellectual support to your answer, this particular indices are going to be very, very helpful. So this is a rule of law index. What it is based on? It is based on various 8 factors over here. The constraints on government power, absence of corruption, open government, fundamental rights, order and security, regulatory enforcement, civil justice and criminal justice. If you can analyze all these things are also part of your good governance discussion. So it means you can use this effectively for arguments in your good governance. In India, yes, it was placed around the 59th rank among 102 countries. And in South Asia, it is among third rank out of 6 countries. And 10 out of 25 middle income countries. This is what is the ranking of India. So on civil justice, so he was generally talking about, so what are the various criteria assessed? One is the legal awareness existing in the country. And the second thing is availability and affordability of legal advice and quality of legal justice delivery. So these are the things which talk about with regard to civil justice. On with regard to the open government, the Right to Information Act, the awareness generation on the laws, the participation of the people, and the various compliant mechanisms, all these things are being talked about. So it means that open government, obviously it is about transparency. And next is order and security. I previously told to you that any country where the violence is high, it means that the good governance is very low. There is poor on good governance. India ranked very low on the order and security because in India violence as a means to settle various grievances or to settle various problems is increasing. So the masses determining the justice based on the sheer power of muscle that is increasing in this country. And added to that, the conflicts or else regional conflicts are also growing on various primordial means. Next is the water tribunal trap. Now, there is a unique situation with regard to the interstate river water disputes in India. The Supreme Court has no jurisdiction on these matters. The Article 262 of the Constitution placed the Parliament to provide for the necessary laws with regard to the dispute redressal mechanism related to interstate river water disputes. So, why it was kept such a way? If we can see the Constituent Assembly discussions, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said, so such a mechanism is not going to be viable as the number of disputes are expected to be too huge. On the other hand, people such as Gulzar Nanda argued that so we need to have a swift mechanism to solve these disputes. So they recommended for the tribunals as the right mechanism. So based on this, Interstate River Water Disputes Act was passed by the Parliament in 1956. So based on this, many of the river water tribunals were appointed in India. The major challenge before them is many of the awards are getting delayed. So why the authority was given to the Parliament? The major reason is for timely, swift action. But however, the authority, this particular very goal is getting undermined. So in this context, the 2012 National Water Policy, what it says is, doing away with all the existing water tribunals, a permanent tribunal will be constituted. But to what extent this permanent tribunal will provide a solution? Is it going to continue the same existing delays further is one thing we need to verify that. So next is, so with regard to the taking the legacy of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, obviously the politics is all about votes. So both BJP and Congress claims this. Actually, if you see the history, the Dalits were traditionally the Congress voters. But the advent of BSP and also certain other parties, regional parties such as Republic Party in Maharashtra, and all these have led to the dent of this vote bank to the Congress. And the Muslim vote bank, minority vote bank is taken up by Janata Party, secular parties, other Janata parties in now UP and Bihar. In this, Congress want to consolidate this particular vote bank which it has lost. On the other hand, the BJP's performance in the last elections, it shows that it is clearly at the cost of the BSP in Uttar Pradesh. So the decrease in the number of percentage of the votes is maximum to the BSP. And BJP also realized the importance of these votes. BJP, which is based on Manusmriti, it is always supported the caste hierarchies indirectly. So in this context, so many people criticized the stand of BJP on this. But however, this particular movement are at taking the attention of these Dalit. It is moving around something called SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Amendment Bill, which was passed as an ordinance during the UPA2 government. What is this bill talks about is establishment of special courts on the atrocities and improving the justice delivery on these particular issues. And also it has brought new offences in the list of atrocities. That is, any Dalit person not allowed to vote, or else even if he is forced to vote against to his interests, like these crimes are also being made into the atrocities. Now you can go and visit the PRS Legislative Research website, or you can see my notes. You can have the details over there. And next is, with regard to Rohingyas, it's a very good article. Now, retribution of the minorities is a global phenomenon. Among this, worst affected are the Rohingyas. The Rohingyas actually, they believe themselves to be the inhabitants of the Rakhine state in Myanmar. But the establishment calls them as illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. Now there is no citizenship status was given to them, so they are living as the people stateless. So in this case, the police action and military resurrections, etc., made them to flee to the Southeast Asian countries, where they are falling prey to the illegal trafficking, exploitation and extortion. So now in this context, what is the attitude of the different nations? In South Asia, where they are expected to be originated from India or Bangladesh, these countries were not willing to take the responsibility because of their poor status. On the other hand, India, which behaves as a big brother in the region, it has already the right-wing politics in states of Assam, etc., regard the Bangladeshis or Bangladeshi Muslims as illegal immigrants. And second thing is, if you go to Southeast Asia, these cheap labor were very much helpful during building the infrastructure, and they made the economies to grow. Once the economies grew and became consumeristic-centered economy, then these people became unwanted over there. That's the reason why, and this particular controversy is increasing further. And third thing is, so if you see the globalization pattern now, so one way the integration of economies is growing, but the labor market's integration, especially with regard to the unskilled workers, is not at all integrating. So because of this, these people are taking an illegal routes to change their status of life, to get over this particular resurrections, persecution which are going with regard to these particular countries. So in this context, they are falling prey to the many of the extortion and exploitation activities. So across the world, there is Islamophobia which is growing. This Islamophobia is another reason for rejecting these people. Finally, what happens is, in all these exercises, humanity is something which is taking a huge beat in the name of the economics. So the poor people across the world, they are seen as the instruments of the economic growth, but not the beneficiaries or shareholders in that particular economic growth. So that's what is the major challenge with regard to this. And access to job markets are shrinking for them on a day-to-day basis. So in this case, even America, even democratic elements in Myanmar, which are led by Aung San Suu Kyi, they are not very active in establishing these particular minorities as their citizens. So it means there is no country for these Rohingyas. That's how it appears. So even America, when Mr. Obama visited Myanmar, he stressed on the importance to be given to the minorities, but even that country is silent on this. So it means from where they have to grow, what is the solution? Finally, it appears rehabilitating them in the Myanmar itself is a solution. So how it has to be done, these questions still remain. So next is, so these are the articles for today. Let us see the notes now. The first article, RBI cuts the repo rates. So why the repo rate was cut? And next, what are the challenges for the economic growth? What are the expectations of the monetary policy? What is the favorable macroeconomic environment I have discussed over here? And the problem of Rohingyas and the citizens of no country. This is what we discussed over here. Article 262, why it has come into existence, we have discussed over here. Now let's. The SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Amendment Bill 2014. So this is existing with regard to the PRS legislative research. On that website, they give a critical analysis of every bill which is pending in the parliament. Please go through that. The Global Rule of Law Index. So we have discussed in detail. So India is at 59th rank out of 102 countries. What are the criteria on which it has been framed up? So I suggested you to use the good governance as a topic, or judiciary as a topic. In judiciary you can add a value addition to this. So thank you very much.